What's going on, analysts? Welcome to another episode of our All About Analysis YouTube channel, where we bring you interviews and tutorials about everything crime analysis. Now let's go ahead and get started. Today's guest is Cliff Aguiar, a crime analyst with the South Simcoe Police Service and chair of the Ontario Crime Analysts Network. He's a professor at Seneca College in the Criminal Intelligence Analysis program. Cliff is also a special advisor to the Ontario Coroner's Office. He started his law enforcement career at the York Regional Police in 2008 as an analyst. He's played a critical role in over 8 major case investigations, and he expanded his experience after being assigned to the intelligence unit as an analyst, and was soon considered a subject matter expert on Eastern European organized crime and the Emergency Operations Center. He was seconded to the OIPRD, the Office of Independent Police Review Director. Cliff, thanks for some of your time and welcome to the channel.
Thanks, Manny. Great to be here, and congratulations on this amazing platform and discussions on crime analysis.
Excellent. Well, Cliff, tell me what you've been up to. It sounds like you're pretty busy.
Yeah, actually, sometimes a bit busier than I want to be, but I love this work. And I think that, over the last couple of years, I've been exploring some new challenges. I'm currently now with the South Simcoe Police Service as their crime analyst, developing a crime analytics approach for a service, really for a service that's not had this role before and is expanding the need for it as a result of some serious growth. In addition, I teach as a professor at Seneca College in our criminal intelligence analysis degree, which we developed in the last 5 years. It was one of the projects that they asked me to be part of a few years ago. And now as a special advisor to the coroner's office, working on some reviews of some sudden death investigations that, just taking a second glance to the cases. So in addition to that, I've been assigned as the director of the Ontario Crime Analysts Network as well to help facilitate some modernization of the OCAN network.
Well, excellent. You are pretty busy.
Nothing busy.
Well, what inspired you to get into crime analysis?
So I was a fraud investigator prior to working into policing, and I loved the work. Investigative work, I think, is one of the greatest challenges and opportunities that you can have, whether it's in finances or even as a police officer or a law enforcement officer. But I kind of felt as though I wasn't really doing much in terms of public safety or having an impact on the community. Saving millions of dollars for banks was good, but at the end of the day, they profit billions. So for me, it was about where could I make the most impact. And so the crime analysis role at York as my entry was really my foray once I left fraud investigations or that sort of banking world and decided to go into a field that had more impact to the community and felt more satisfying to me in terms of working hard to get some real impact to the community and to the officers that we work with and the civilian staff within the services.
Well, in all your wealth of experience, what would you consider to be your specialty?
Part of my approach, certainly with OCAN, is that I'm a big proponent of crime analysis in general, and that comes on several fronts. From a training perspective, from a promotion perspective internally with services, having discussions with various internal people within organizations about the value of crime analysis. In terms of specialty for me, I've been both at the tactical level and I've been in the strategic level. So that sort of intelligence piece around crime analysis. I've done the administrative side, I've done the internal side, and also the real-time operations center side. So for me, my specialty, if you will, is around analysis as a whole and how it can be implemented across various platforms or various levels within organizations. So now I've transitioned from the analyst role, doing the work, which I still do, don't get me wrong, but now I can actually teach it. So I have an opportunity to teach young minds or individuals that are coming into our degree program at Seneca about what crime analysis fundamentally was, what it currently is and where we can go in the future. So that sort of 360 view at looking at analysis today, but also looking at where the challenges are within analysis, where the opportunities are, and how we can bridge that and bring some excellence through partnerships, through other colleagues throughout organizations, in teaching that to our future, not only students that want to be crime analysts, but also students who want to be police officers, but want to have that crime analysis brain, right? We want to train our officers to be technologically minded so that when they go into the position, they're prepared for the technological evolution that's occurring within policing in terms of operations. So that's kind of my foray. So it's not even just about the job itself. What I'm actually thinking is that I'm really a proponent of promoting crime analysis across not only the province, but across Canada.
So you're essentially developed a specialty in consulting, is essentially what you've been doing.
I don't know. I mean, well, I'm sure we'll talk about some of the challenges within crime analysis. So, part of the beauty of being the director of OCAN is that you get to really talk to analysts about what they want to do, what the limitations are, where the limitations lie, why they exist, and some of the things we'll dive into, I'm sure. But you get a real good sense. And then on the other hand, I get to work with law enforcement officers who understand. Some understand, some don't know yet what crime analysts can, should, and will be doing. And then you have the teaching component. So the good thing is that I've got all of these different experiences, and then the investigative mind, right? So not only analytics, but investigative, and you blend it all together, and then you can become a voice for analytics, not only in the province, but some of my colleagues that want to grow and learn. One thing I will say about crime analysts, regardless, is we all want to do good work. We all want to do great work. What we need is a platform for excellence that's consistent, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. So does that mean consulting for different organizations? Maybe, I don't know. I like to think of myself as an opportunity to provide a positive voice about not just what analysts can do, but thinking outside the box and leveraging that thought around the box with technology. We know technology is evolving, so why not evolve analysis with it? So we're moving along with it, not trying to catch up to it.
Well, that's some great work you're doing. Now, you've worked for a number of agencies and have dealt with analysts across the province in your role as chair of the Ontario Crime Analysts Network. What challenges have you found that's common with all these analysts and or agencies?
Yeah, so I worked with York for a number of years and moved on to the OPP in order to do some Operations Center work, seconded to the ministry, and then now it's South Simcoe Police Service. So not only have I worked with large services and provincial services, but now I'm working for a service that's fairly small. That's, again, as I mentioned earlier, evolving and growing. So the purview that I've had is that you get to have conversations with a number of people across the province who are doing the role, some that are just coming into it. Now, I should note that part of my work at OPP, I actually had a team of analysts that I got to train, and I had the opportunity to mentor. So then we have, of course, analysts that have been around as long as I have, which of course is ages, and their experience and what they've been doing as well. Some of the challenges, I think, and one of the things I'm hearing a lot is this silo thing. I think one of the biggest problems that we have analytically is that we have so much information that is compartmentalized in various different locations. And that could be from things like records management systems that exist independently, right? From all the provincial agencies that we have, some use one records management system, another uses another. Some don't even have it. Some are still paper-based, the smaller services. And so what happens when you're trying to do your work is that you're often frustrated by the fact that I can't simply run a search for a phone number into a system that runs the province, or that can run a name that can do some search. There are, of course, mechanisms through CPIC and PIP and all of those things that we can run. But what we're finding is that a lot of information becomes contained within the service. It becomes contained within sometimes the investigation. And often from a tactical side, what I find is that analysts who work at districts or divisions or detachments, whatever you want to call them, they do a lot of the day-to-day tactical work. But oftentimes that information that they have doesn't necessarily translate into an intelligence product. And that intelligence product, that transition from tactical to strategic, is what's so critical in terms of moving information from the ground, if you will, into an intelligence piece, into a database that can then be shared across the province. That to me is one of the things that if I were, in charge of a district analyst, one thing I'd say is, okay, you're done your project. Now you're off for a few days, write this intelligence report and get it out there.
Hey, if you're getting value out of this video, can you smash that like button? That'd mean the world to us. Now let's get back to the interview.
So that is a big challenge in terms of communication. The other aspect, of course, is that you have silos within silos. So then you have units within units that have information, and there isn't an opportunity to flatten that so that information is flowing across and not built into these compartmentalized silos. And in many cases, to be honest, larger services, they're often in many cases staffed with potentially supervisors or managers that don't really are analysts, like are uniform positions that don't truly know the role. So you need to staff and you need to have managers and supervisors who actually know, who are relevant in terms of their training, understand where the future of analysis is going, are passionate about where analysis is going, and are consuming the evolution so that they in turn can pass along that passion, that information downward to the staff who want to feel like they're relevant. They want to feel like they're learning the most current aspects of what crime analysis is, particularly around technology, because every day some new product comes out.
Right. Well, in interviewing other analysts, I've asked them about, memorable cases that they've been involved in and what they did to make a difference in the case. Tell me about a case you were involved in and specifically the critical role you played in the case.
One of the ones that comes to mind, and again, it's bridging that sort of that tactical to intelligence pieces. I had a case where an officer had indicated that a cell phone and a weapon were found in a hotel room. And because the cell phone didn't really belong to anybody, is what we call, in the industry, the burner phone, it really wasn't an opportunity to have a discussion with the officer about what we could actually take from that particular phone to try and identify perhaps who it was, who had rented the hotel room, who that weapon was associated to. So I had and asked him to write a warrant to get access to the information. And through the analysis of that particular phone records, I was able to actually determine the identity of who was using that cell phone and likely attached to the weapon and the hotel and that incident, etc. Now, that was done, of course, and then I ended up writing an intelligence report. And I remember distinctly submitting that report up to intelligence. And then a couple of days later, the detective in charge of one of the units called me and said, I just read your intel report. Do you have any idea what you just did? And I was like, no. And what I had done was connected a piece of a big investigation that was going on at a different level, that not that it needed it, but it was certainly a really interesting and necessary piece of that intelligence or that investigation that filled in the gap. So they ran with that and used that as part of their intelligence investigation. Now, interestingly enough, years later, when I move on to another service, I meet another investigator and we have a conversation. He's like, "Oh, you're Cliff." Yes. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, come to my office." And I go into his office and he's got his computers up and he's like, "Watch this." And he brings up the intelligence report. So now what he tells me is that intelligence report had come through the previous service, had come over, and it was critical in their role in their investigation on another investigation. So I don't tell this story because it's about me. That's not what it's about. What it's about is how analysis, particularly around robust analysis and allowing analysts to be as robust and as motivated as possible, giving the platform to do it, and how that can cross not only agencies, but cross investigations and contribute ultimately to what I thought in this case was public safety, right? We're now talking about removing weapons, identifying people that are dangerous, and simply from a phone that was found under a mattress that could really have been nothing. But because you take those extra steps, you never know. And I always leverage this and say to my officers, certainly at South Simcoe Police, one of the things I say, you never know how a piece of information today could be innocuous. It means nothing. Sitting here means absolutely nothing to you today. But 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, that piece of information that you weren't sure you wanted to actually put into the system now becomes a critical component of making that link down the road. So my assumption is always put it in because you never know, and be fulsome because you never know when it's going to come back. So I think that's a good example of not only how analytics should be ideologically, but it's about how we do our work, which is about phone analysis, intelligence building, and contributing ultimately to public safety.
That's a great case that you were involved in. Now, let's talk about OCAN.
Yes.
When were you appointed as chair, and what can we expect from OCAN in the next few years?
So I was asked a few months ago, so back in March, to take over. And then, of course, COVID hit. So we've been on that COVID break, if you will. What we're doing is I formed a team. So there's now myself as team lead or director of the OCAN, and I have a team of analysts from several agencies who have joined in to assist in the modernization piece of it. Now, we see OCAN as an opportunity to continue to be the networking piece, which is so important for analysts to communicate, to know who's in the business. But we see it as tiered as well. There's the networking piece and information sharing. And then there's also the piece about training and opportunities. So what we're doing as we modernize it is create opportunities for analysts to continue to network through technology as opposed to, sitting in a room, if you will. And so we're leveraging relationships and opportunities with different services. One of the services that we've tapped into is the CISO, with the Central Intelligence Services of Ontario, because really what we're saying is we don't want to be in the business of duplication. We have no interest in that. And how can we do business so that we all benefit in a seamless way and have access to the same information that we know analysts want to share? We want to provide a platform, a technological platform where analysts can put in their bulletins, their bolos, their information that can be accessible to me by simply logging in. I have a crime trend right now going on where we've got some break and enters, and it all is dependent on me to email this analyst or that group or this email. Do you have the same? Do you not have the same? Is this person? And you're so dependent on a fractured system, whereas we'd like to see a more centralized place where I can put in, here's my series, here's all my photos, and then people can log in and see it automatically, compare, contribute, add, and communicate that way. It would give you an alert system. So that's one aspect of modernization. We're relaunching in September, at the end of September, with a virtual platform and with a message from the Commissioner of the OPP welcoming us to the new approach to the Ontario Crime Analysts Network. The other thing I should note is that we're really in the business of celebrating success. And we don't do that enough. So that's another thing, going back to that question about some of the challenges, is we don't do enough to celebrate what analysts are doing, the great work that they're doing. So moving forward, we're creating a Crime Analyst of the Year award. And so every year we will ask our agency partners and our crime analyst colleagues and friends to submit a nomination for one of their own or perhaps another agency that they're aware of, and highlight the greatness of what that analyst did to contribute to that investigation, to that report, whatever environment that comes in. And we'll be celebrating their success every year by offering an award and publicizing the great work that they do. So in addition to that piece, we're leveraging as well with IACA and IALIA, the other crime analysis networks that exist, again, to forge positive relationships and to avoid and kind of remove that sort of duplication, if you will, in terms of these different organizations that do different things. So we're looking at it, the way I see it is we're looking at it from a 360 perspective and figuring out ways to address some of the challenges that analysts have, particularly around opportunities for training and providing opportunities for training and bringing in guest speakers who can teach us great new things or showcase the new technologies, as well as providing a platform for communication amongst each other.
These are fantastic initiatives, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of years and see what we see with OCAN. Now, what advice would you have for anyone new to crime analysis or thinking about a career in this field?
Well, I mean, aside from coming into my degree program and let me teach you, we've actually got some great profs. I mean, I know you know Dr. Condon, former Halton analyst, who's now our program coordinator at the college, and some other great professors that we're bringing on board. We have guest speakers, and we leverage within our own community to bring in guest speakers and teachers to teach about crime analysis. One of the things I always tell my students, and I also tell other analysts that I work with in the industry, is that there is no limit. Aside from your privacy, the usual sort of caveats you have around information, there is no limit on what analysts can do. And so my advice is always to, push the envelope, think outside the box, and don't be afraid to work with the information that you have and work with new ideas. Don't be afraid to put out questions that you may have that don't seem correct. Silence is never a good thing with analysis, right? Put it out there, no matter how innocuous it seems or whether you think you're going to sound silly. You have to put it out there because you never know when those pieces of information become critical or who you communicate with. So my biggest advice is break down the silos, right? Do everything you can, both internally and externally, and try to establish this new mechanism of thinking where we don't try to hide our information, but we try to become collaborative and global in our approaches to analysis. And stay current with us in terms of OCAN and with what Seneca is doing, because we are, and of course IACA and ILEA, because we're always on the cusp of new things that are coming out and great new technologies that are out there.
This is some great information you provided for us. Now, it's been a great interview, and I'll leave you with the last words.
Last words. Well, first of all, let me just say I miss working with you because you and I have chatted a lot over the years, Manny, and I think one of the things we talked about recently was some of the approaches that you had when you were in the business of sending me information in a different way of thinking. And that is the epitome, I think, of what makes analysis so great, is people that are provided the platforms and opportunities to share their information. And you said it best when when you said, I was on vacation, all of a sudden you email me like, hey, where's my report? What you indicated there was that your work was valuable, right? And that's exactly what analysis is about. When you go away, or when that officer emails you or that other analyst emails you and says, hey, where's your report? You know you've made an impact. And so ultimately with analysis, it's really about collaboration. It's about partnership. It's about big thinking. It's about public safety. This is about being on the cusp of an amazing opportunity to do the work that we do. So I encourage people out there who are thinking of being crime analysts to really, take a look at the programs that are out there, take a look at our program, talk to another analyst, come to us as OCAN for opportunities to network, and we'll give you the platforms and opportunity to really determine whether this work is for you. As far as OCAN is concerned, great things are coming, right? We're just starting to modernize it and to revolutionize the way we are starting to look at analytics as a whole. But I will also add that I think it's amazing that you've got this YouTube channel. So congratulations on this. This is great to see you doing this work and to continue to promote what I think is probably one of the greatest jobs that exists, maybe globally, or perhaps I'll stick to law enforcement. So thanks again.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Well, Cliff,
right?
Cliff, thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule And listen, we appreciate you taking the time being on the channel.
Thank you, sir.
That's Cliff Aguiar, crime analysis expert, professor, chair of OCAN, and valued colleague. If you found value in this video, go ahead and smash that like button and click subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any of our new episodes. We'll see you next time.